Today on the show, JJ talks about Morphettville Parks, the intel there. I obviously talk about Caulfield. Rain on the way, we've got to be careful. Snaps, there's a few there that we're going to be involved with, 5 horses in particular, price sensitivity. And also our Pin the Tail, it's going to be Pericles this week. Last week it was See You in Heaven. Let's see who won the can. Yeah, you betcha. It was me. Hello and welcome to the Jules and JJ show. My name's Julian Balance. Joined on location, JJ, how are you going over there?
I'm good, Jules. It's nice to be sitting a bit further away from you than usual, but I'm going all right. It's been it was an average week for me last week. It was a big week for you, so I'm glad. Another reason I'm glad I'm a bit further away. You would have been carrying on, no doubt, around Bowen heads like Don Corleone, shaking hands like this everywhere you go. No, it's been an average week, but I'm glad to be having another crack at it.
All right, very good, JJ. Well, let's get into the track intel. All right, JJ, so you can start us off here. Just give us some track analysis of, I think we're on the Parks this week.
We're on the Parks track. The rail's out 3 metres. It was in a true last time we raced there. Now, the 3 metre positioning often can be a bit hard to make ground, but we're working on a soft 5, which probably won't impact that. And the wind at the moment is probably a 20 to 25 kilometre sort of west to southwesterly. I think the intel, if I was going to try and peg it, would be horses up on speed are going to be advantaged. But most importantly, horses that are back swooping wide around them, they're going to be disadvantaged. So I'm going to look at horses that are, if they're not up on speed, they're certainly drawn low. They can get that suck run in behind them and cut the corner. I reckon it might be tricky to loop out wide.
All right, that's very good intel there for the punters because on speed, we need a starting point to begin with. JJ's given us that starting point. Obviously, you can be agile throughout the day if that changes. But that's our starting point. For me, we go to Victoria, we're Caulfield. We know we've had some issues with Caulfield. The track's been deteriorating really quickly once we get some rain on it. Now, it's been beautiful for the last 2 weeks in Melbourne. Rail's out 9 metres the entire circuit. We know they're protecting that inside ground for the big Group 1 meeting in 2 weeks' time, the Memsie Stakes, where we'll see Pride of Jenny versus Mr. Brightside. Can't wait for the fireworks there. Track prediction, I've got good/soft, and the issue with that is we've got 10 mils predicted of rain Friday night. And we've also got another 1 to 7 mils predicted Saturday on race day. Now, we saw the last time we raced at Caulfield, when we got race day rain, it went from a good 4 to a heavy 8 really quickly. So that's my fear. It's depending on how much rain we get, what actually happens. From the shoot point of view, I think forward of midfield is going to be an advantage with the rail out. And just around the circle, 1,400 metre plus, I think it's going to be even. But just when you see rail out, a lot of people want to go straight away to the fact that leaders are a high percentage play. The numbers I have around this situation, out 9 metres Caulfield, with possibly on a soft track, leaders are a bit of a low percentage play. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Sitting off speed might be an advantage around those 1,400 metre plus races at Caulfield. That was the track intel. All right, let's now have a look at our Fox factors. Again, just another type of little way or edge we can go through this, JJ, that you can look at when you're doing your form for this week. This week, I really wanted to identify with the Vane and the Quisette at Caulfield. There's the Rosebud, obviously up in Sydney as well. To look at these early 3-year-old races and understand that from 2 to 3 is the biggest time in terms of progression or regression for a horse. 3 to 4, yeah, you see a little bit. 4-year-old plus, you're not seeing much. But 2 to 3, you really see some progression or regression where the horses just haven't actually grown or matured from that 2-year-old year. I think these races like the Vane and the Quisette, it's great to just watch and learn. You don't need to be getting involved from a punting point of view. It's the second and third up runs that you get from this that you learn so much that you can then have a crack. But keep your powder dry. You learn so much from these, the Vane and Quisette. You want anything to add with that? Because there's some horses that we've seen through time that haven't shown much early doors that have gone on to explode and vice versa.
I remember my time sort of back doing a bit more Victorian stuff, and people always want to look at a horse's maybe debut or early in its career and predict where it's going to get to. And sometimes horses will show you that ability ahead of time. Other times they naturally learn, they progress slowly. A couple of horses that stick out. I remember back in Tarzino's Derby year, it won its maiden. I reckon there was 0.4 of a length from first to fourth in that maiden. And one of the traders that I was working with at the time said, no, the maiden's gone no good. Won't name any names. Said the maiden's gone no good. You look at it and go, yeah, 0.4 of a length back to fourth. It's probably not a superstar. Anyway, it's come out and won the Derby. And Atlantic Jewel, won its maiden on the Geelong Synthetic. I was there that day. Won by a length, I think, but it wasn't impressive. Who would have thought she'd go on to do what she did? So just be wary. Horses that have had 2 or 3 starts, that's not their rating. They can definitely improve. And if you're betting confidently on the fact that they've only had 1 or 2 starts, it could be a trap.
That person that you mentioned as the trader at SB, no doubt watches this show. I know he does. And I think he put up 100. He was happy to leave that horse 100 to 1 for the Derby. And he got knocked off his breeches very quickly. Fair to say he didn't get much of a bonus that year. And I reckon he might have had some inside knowledge on Atlantic Jewel. That's just between me and you and the lamppost. I think he might have known that filly went pretty good. But that was the Fox factors for this week. All right, JJ, let's get to the SA set. Take us away here, mate. What do you got for us? Only got a couple here. I know you sort of had a few, but what do you got this week?
Shell shock. Had 3 last week, couple of seconds, and one of them was poor. But I've got 2. The first one I want to touch on. You know, you get these horses where you might look at them early on, either from a trial or the first couple of runs, and think, this is a really nice horse. I can feel it. You're just waiting for the time where it's going to show it. Not convinced that Gold Rush Guru in race 3 is definitely going to show it on Saturday because it's the Parks track. It's drawn an inside gate. But I'm sure it's a very, very nice horse. So I'm going to go with it anyway, on the basis that there are 3 chances in the race. One of them will be up on speed, commissions, which is going to be suited. The other one, Snoopy Now, is drawn gate 14. It's probably going to go back near the tail. Gold Rush Guru probably lobs midfield defence. It'll need some luck. It's got quite a big stride. But I think its recent jump out suggests that this horse has improved. And I saw glimpses of its last prep with 2 runs that I thought this is a really nice horse. So I'm going to kick up for it on Saturday. Gold Rush Guru in race number 3. It's about $5. I think it's an each way price. I'm convinced it's the best horse in the race. And I think with an ounce of luck from that inside gate, it's going to be very hard to beat. Second of the horses I'm going to tip you in race number 5. It's called Platinum Wolf. It's a horse that's pretty progressive. It's again $5. I think it's a good each way chance. This horse is a weight carrier. It's going to carry 60 on Saturday. It's 3 wins to date. It's carried 58, 60 and 61. So it's been able to win all its 3 races with relatively high weights. So I think the fact that it's in a lowish grade with a high weight is a positive. There's also a bit of speed in the race, so I think it can roll forward and lob in probably 4th or 5th one off the fence. The Parks is not the ideal track for it. It is quite a big horse, but I think as gets a bit deeper into its career, it's going to learn to sort of roll with those punches a little bit on those tighter tracks. And I think it can run a big race. It's $5. I've got it 380, so not convinced the market will hammer it because the trainer and jockey probably only go at about 7% strike rate. But I think it's a perfect race for it. So I'm going to tip it each way in race number 5, Platinum Wolf. So just a 2 for me, but I'm really confident that both of them, if they get a couple of breaks, can go very close to winning, and they're both each way odds.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, JJ. So there you can see 2 selections for JJ, and you can play at the each way price. So there's a bit of value there, as you mentioned, that last one that he's marked a little bit shorter than that current $5 quote. That could be some advantages for the punter there in Adelaide. Now let's get to my VIC set. All right, got a few here, punters. So sharpen the crayon out. Going to start in race 1. Run Like Hell. So big each way price here. Now first up off 115 days last start. I think it's going to be much fitter for that. I think this horse will go forward. Williams is in the saddle. And I just like the fact that that was a high rating race. 3rd and 7th have come out and since been able to win. So that's a positive. I like the race behind Qdaz. I want to be with it. I think there's just some chinks in the other horses, especially at the pointy end of the market. I think it's a massive price, Run Like Hell. And you've had that in Adelaide, I reckon, previously, that horse, JJ.
Yeah, we have. It's an on-pacer. It used to sort of jump and run, but I did have a look through its last start. Didn't sit up on speed as much last start, so maybe it'll box seat. Have you done a map for that race? Do you see it sort of in behind them somewhere?
Yeah, it's drawn well, and also the fact that Craig Williams in the saddle, you know how much homework he does. He's going to ride to the advantage of probably the strength of the horse. So maybe it was just probably a little bit underdone. We know that those horses that are on speed, if you're not 100% wound up, you're going to be found out. So they probably rode a little bit soft to be able to get it through the prep. So I think you're probably bang on there. Race 3, the next one we're going to get to is number 11, Electrona. This horse is absolutely airborne, this prep, so 2 from 3. And then you go back to its previous prep when it won its maiden at Bendigo, and I know you can say it was just a Bendigo maiden, but I have that as ranking as high as I've rated a provincial maiden. That always gives me a real positive edge to when we're going to see these horses in the next prep and the previous prep. They've actually got plenty of ability. Just sets up really well, this horse. Blake Shin in the saddle. I really want to be with this horse, but the key factor here is we need this track to stay a good 4. Soft 5, no problem. But if we get that real heavy rain Friday night and then into Saturday morning, I don't want to be with this horse. And I'm probably most likely, I reckon the stable will probably scratch. So just keep an eye on Electrona. I'm really keen on it. But also it needs to probably be on the better side of soft. Race 7, number 8, Arkansas Kid. Now it's off 98 days and it's been gelded. This is a horse that was having a big crack as a 3-year-old in some good races. This sets up really well. Half a kilo off the minimum. Newly minted 4-year-old, which you talk about as a Fox Factor probably in a couple of weeks about how good that can be against these older horses. It's an outstanding bet. I think Arkansas Kid around $4.80. And in the same race, I think there's only 2 horses that can win this race, is Mautai. Moody and Coleman got it last start. First go for them. Flemington Straight, absolutely blitzed up, $11 into $7. It's on the min here. Second up, no issues at all. I think it sits in the first 4 or 5 for Linda Meach. I think it's going to be really hard to beat. They're the 2 I want to be with in that race, Arkansas Kid and Mautai. And in the last, number 16, LOU. Now, I know it's off 49 days, but this is a horse that likes to have its races spaced anyway. Damien Lane in the saddle. Its number in Sydney last start was just enormous. It just has to hold that and it'll be winning. I love the fact that it also can do it on a dry or a wet track. It's on speed. It ticks a lot of boxes. LAU is a horse that I definitely want to be with, JJ.
I had a look at that race when I saw your tips, and I've got a bit of a theory with these, not so much short price favourites, but when you've got a race where there's a clear favourite and a gap to the rest, if there's $1.80, if a horse goes up $1.80 and it's going to jump $4, there'll be enough punters out there that have it marked about that $4 quote. And when that happens, they back 2 or 3 horses that might be, 14 into 9 or 21 into 14 or 11 into 750. There's always a few movements on those longer price horses when that favourite goes up too short. I looked at LOU's race. It's been rock solid at 250 and basically nothing has been specced around it. So I reckon that's a good sign that it's either going to jump very close to 250, if not shorter. Had it have been 210 out of 250 and a few of the others specced in at longer odds, I'd say just, it's probably got to be a little bit cautious with it. But I reckon the shape of that market from the early indicators that horse might be the right one.
That's really good intel for the punters out there because we speak about Wednesday to Friday being 2 different markets to the Saturday when you get the bigger players involved, but it does create some type of opportunity. Also, you can get a bit of an edge of what might happen on Saturday. So I think that's one to keep in your back pockets, punters, what JJ's mentioned there. That is important. Now, that was my set for Victoria. Now let's get to snap or don't snap. All right, JJ, so last week, 4 from 5 we got, so we got to 15 from 19. You did your job. I let us down with Walonda in the last, which I thought would be really heavily supported, but it drifted and went ordinary, but drew that inside, and we spoke about that, obviously, on Pandora's Fox, that going to have to be forgiving there, but you're back on track here, but I'll start us off. I know you usually start us off, but I'll start us off because I've got 3. We kick off in race 1 at Caulfield. Dipsy Doodle, it's around $4.60. I just think you're going to get a better price than that. This will be its 4th run this prep, and it hasn't been terrible, and it's been pointy end of the market, gets Jamie Carr. So there's some positives there. I've just got its last start rating not going very well in Sydney, and I just think if you like this horse, yes, absolutely, it can win it, but I've marked it much bigger, and I think you'll get a better price on the day, so keep your powder dry with that one. Electrona, I'm really keen on that horse. It's obviously in my set for selections. I think that $4.20 is going to shorten up. So I think I'd be snapping that one, Electrona. I think I've marked it around sort of $3.30, $3.40. So I think you should be taking that price. And in race 7 at Caulfield, there's a horse first up off 338 days. That's usually a recipe for not success, called Cast. And we know this is a very good horse. JJ, you've had this before in Adelaide. It's won some good races in Adelaide. Got no doubt she's got plenty of ability. But in a race like this over 1,200 metres, that $6 seems really skinny to me. I've marked it a little bit closer to double figures. So again, this horse can win the race if you like it. I just wouldn't be backing it now. I'd wait to the death. I think that'll be your best price. JJ, you got a couple for us from the Parks.
Yeah, I do. They're both in the same race, which is often the case. If you've got a different market to what's out there and one's, you think's too short, you've probably got some value elsewhere. And that's what I've got in race number 5. The horse I think will shorten up is Platinum Wolf. It's got a boom on it. Its SP profile over the journey is pretty good. I like the rapid increase in trip as well. I think the $5 around for it is a good price, and I wouldn't be surprised if that gets snapped up. In the same race, bit of a rebel. It's currently sort of 380 favourite. There has been some money for it. I think it's too short. It's got a peak rating, which I haven't given it for this start, but it's got sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th ratings. It's best ever across that band are all very similar. And that's the mark I've priced this horse off off in this race, and I've got it marked a lot longer. I've got about sort of 550. So I reckon the 380 for Bit of a Rebel is not a price worth taking. If you like it, I'd be waiting. Conversely, I reckon Platinum Wolf's good odds at $5.
Thanks, JJ. Okay, so punters, there's 5 selection we've got that hopefully we can get the price sensitivity right that can add some more cash into your pocket. All right, now let's get to Pin the Tail. All right, JJ, so last week we were in Adelaide. See you in heaven. You selected $3.50. I selected $3.20. So we were really close together. The SP for PointsBet was $3.30, my friends. So the overall becomes 3-1. And if it was a Davis Cup tie, it would be over. But it's not a Davis Cup tie. It may be a never-ending tie. So we continue on. So very unlucky for you, but rules are rules. It's 3-1 me, but we're pretty close around the mark anyway. So I think we should take some solace in that fact, even though you've got beaten, you owe me another can. I'm going to become a diabetic.
Yeah, it makes me feel a lot better. It makes me feel great.
All right, this week we're going to do one of the talking horses. Obviously, now we're getting into some big horses in Victoria with a spring carnival not far away. Horse called Pericles. So it's first up off 133 days in the PB Lawrence. It goes out, or went out last prep, running second in the Doncaster. Blake Shin rides. So there's some positivity there. I've marked this horse, JJ, $3.20. I just didn't know which way to go or where it was around. I think currently it's around sort of $3, $3.10. I thought $3.20 for me for my 100% price. So that's where I sit. What have you done with this horse? Because I know you had a look at it and you've sort of drilled down into this race a little bit. What have you given Pericles for Pin the Tail?
Yeah, I had to have a good look because I'm behind. I need to get a win. So I had a good look at it. I think there's a couple of key things to take out. One, there's a lot of first uppers in this race. So obviously a lot of the big players have got people in the yard that monitor how these horses parade. So when you've got a lot first up, it's going to have an effect on the market late, which is the SP. And it's not just Pericles. Pericles might parade on average, so its price won't move as a result of its parade. But you might have 4 or 5 others that parade like they need to run. They might all drift, which means Pericles shortens, not on the back of a great parade, but on the back of the others having a poor parade. So the mounting yard, the last 3 or 4 minutes is going to be key, or 5 minutes is going to be key for that race. The reason I've got it marked a bit short of 290 is because James Cummings has given it 2 barrier trials this time around. In the autumn, sort of end of summer, autumn, he just gave it the 1 trial and it took a run to get to its sort of better figures. Whereas Go to Spring last year had 2 trials, won the first 2 races, first up, second up in Sydney, including the tramway second up. So I reckon he's looked at that and thought this needs to have a second trial so that it's screwed down and ready to go first up. I think the map's pretty favourable for it. It's drawn, I think, 6 or 7. It'll bounce and maybe get 1 out, 1 back behind what could be a strong tempo with a few horses that like to roll along. So I'm 290 and I need to get 1 back.
You do. You seem gonzo. In terms of the market of who's going to win the Pin the Tail, you have really drifted. And to be honest, you were never really seen as a contender, to be honest, to begin with. But we will say, so three. Wow, they're really starting to drill deep into the person that got beaten by her too, by the way. That's for another day. Probably for as stupid as a fox, probably should have put it in there. $3 or below, starts with the 2 in front. It's obviously going to be JJ's can. And $3.10 or above, north of that, it will be me. So that is Pin the Tail for this week. All right, last seg of the show here, JJ. Plays of the day. I'll get you to kick off first because I think your horse is sort of middle of the day, whereas mine's a little bit later.
Yeah, it's race 5, Platinum Wolf. Just think that the rise up in trip second up is important for it. Its first up run wasn't bad. It was a run of a horse that wants a bit further. It can carry weight. I mentioned its 3 wins to date have been with 58, 60 and 61 kilos. So the weight of 60 on Saturday doesn't worry me. Just needs an ounce of luck in the first sort of 300 metres to slot in, which I think it'll get. Looks like a rolling tempo. And at $5, I'm happy to play each way.
Beautiful. Platinum Wolf for JJ at Morphettville Parks. For me, we've got to wait till the last at Caulfield. It's LOU, just ticks the boxes. On-speed horse. Yes, it's off 49 days, but this horse has that profile. Usually their run's spaced. Damien Lane 6 sticks. I think it'll be on speed. Wet or dry, no issue at all. I think it'll be mighty hard to beat LOU at Caulfield. That's the show, JJ. That was fun. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're not here. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, I'll be over there next week for the show. So hopefully I'll get the Pin the Tail and you have a bad week on the tip.
Thanks for watching the show, punters. If you liked that, don't forget to, you got it, like and subscribe.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.